It's just like I know from like, from 8 till 9, I was in Kingston. From like 9 till 10 was travel time, 3 calls on the call, 10 till 12 or 10 to 11, whenever we're done here. And then like off to off to my office, have a conference call with a couple of my associates. And then it's, loyalist stuff. And then it's just boom, 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 boom. Right? Like I just know where I stand every time, every minute of the day is accounted for. And then I have today until 3:40, kids get off the bus, then it's dad mode, right? Yeah. But I feel like for me, I can get in, like in 5-6 hours what most people get in 10, 11, because I'm not fucking around. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? For lack of a better term.
I don't want to get too much into those questions yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can ask them again too. Like,
yeah, I know. And like,
you like the element of surprise.
I do, because I like that real, because then people sit there and like, oh fuck, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's interesting, man. It's just like, what I'm finding with business, and it's like, you have your expectations, but you need to also temper them, because they're not the expectations of other people, right? Yes. So I'm talking to one of the shareholders today, and we have a guy on staff, great, awesome, doing things, but zero sense of urgency, right? So it's like we want to be open in March, and he's like, wow, we need till April 2nd. And so I was like, yeah, but you get paid. Yeah. You get paid every month. I'm floating it. So like,
what do you care?
Why? Yeah, exactly. Right. So here's the thing. So there's an understanding, like what you need to recognize in business is that on March 14th till April 30th or till March 31st, that's 2 weeks of revenue. Yeah. That you're getting paid from. But so now April 2nd, okay, that's fine. So me and my shareholders have to come in and we have to float it. Yeah. So you'll get your paycheck on Friday. I won't.
So I learned a really cool trick from, I always forget her last, I think it's Marg Hashi. So she ran like 3M Canada basically at some point. And she has a really simple way of managing day to day with like the finances, is to have a line of credit that she uses as the operating account. And what that allows her to do is, if she has any variances in the revenue streams, is it covers that. Yeah. Right. So as long as it's not too much, right? So I mean, like, don't make your that account like too big that you can't leverage it. Right. And so that seems to be a really interesting way. So we're kind of working our way towards that now in the studio.
Well, that's it. And it's a great idea. 3M can just call the bank and be like, I need a $500,000 million operating line of credit.
5 to 6 mil probably.
Yeah, whatever they want, right? Yeah. Like it's a piece of cake for them. But for guys like you and I that are starting, like, we're a small business up to 300 employees, right? Yeah. So it's like
up to 499.
Oh, there you go. So there you go.
That's the SME. Yeah.
So there it is. So for us, like, you go call BMO. Hey, I want to open up 300,000, and they'll do it. But it's just like, you got to go through. So it's like, I want to open up a $300,000 line of credit. They're like, okay. Yep. But it takes 6 months.
Are we live? We're ready to go. We're live? Nice.
Awesome.
Nick, welcome to Amplified. I want to get people to know more about you and how you perceive, kind of life and business. And that's one of the things that's really been interesting for me watching your content. And so I really just wanted to share that with my listeners, is how Nick thinks about the world. So if you just want to give like your 20-second elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, all of the fun stuff.
20 seconds. Wow. Right out of the gate too. I love it. So yeah, my name is Nick Foley, and what I do is I'm an entrepreneur, social enterprise usually, entrepreneur in the sense that I try to start businesses and things like that to propagate social good in the community. I am a professor at Loyalist College. Like I said, an entrepreneur. Most importantly, though, I'm a dad and a husband. So that's me. But I really try to live to a code of just trying to do the right thing and getting up every day and living to my absolute fullest, from the moment my eyes open to the moment they close to go to bed at night. I just try to live intentionally and try to be as productive as I can.
And what started this? So I mean, on my very sparse notes, only because I've actually consumed your content for a fair amount of time now, so I actually know a lot about you already. So my thoughts on this podcast is going to be an entrepreneurial life and its cadence. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, the cadence came from in 2015. I cycled across Canada to raise awareness for inclusion and acceptance of all people without bias. My daughter was born with Down syndrome, our firstborn, Bryn, and so I wanted to raise that awareness. And so when I got back on the bike, the bike was a successful journey across the country, but when I got back, everything went to hell for me. And the reason being is because I didn't understand what the come down period was going to be like, right? So I had zero systems in place. I had, zero intention with the way that I was living my life. And after about 11 months of just like, aimlessly, floating around, doing nothing, not understanding what I was going to do, not being great to live with, not being around good people. Like I was just in a bad spot. Not being a good person to be around is what I meant. And so I decided that I needed to start to be a little bit more intentional with my existence. And so where that came from was like when I was on the bike several years ago, I had a good cadence of riding, and I tried to implement that into my everyday. And so just started with like simple exercise in the morning, journaling, some breathing exercises, and liked how I felt. And so from there, I just, tried to continue to do that, and I worked it into my life, and now I talk a lot about that and inclusion practices for businesses. And it's been a life-changing experience for me, because literally, like I said, for a year, 11 months, I was just like, I was horrible to be around. And now I feel like I'm just, I'm learning and really embracing, the everyday that comes.
How long ago was that? Like how many years ago are we talking?
About 9 years ago. So like it'll be, 2015 I rode from May until, April 22nd until July 23rd. I was on the bike. And then from like literally August until May of 2016, I was like, I got to figure this out. And it was May 11th, 2016. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was just kind of scrolling through the internet, and I came across a story about a guy who has the 20-20-20 rule, which was 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of like just like, cathartic journaling, just getting your thoughts on paper, and 20 minutes of the meditation. I was like, you know what? I can do that. I get up early, and usually I didn't have any intention or anything to follow when I got up, just up, watch the Sports Center, whatever it was. And so I went downstairs, got a book. It was the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, I think. Yep. And Stephen Covey. And so I put that out, and I put that beside my gym shoes, and put them on, went for a run, came back, felt pretty good. So I put on a cup of coffee and started to read and started to journal, and then started to do a little bit of meditation. After an hour, I was like, wow, I feel pretty good. And then just tried to really lean into that, right? And just try to have a better morning, better start. And then eventually with time, it just kind of manifested itself as it is today, where it's like, I teach it to corporations and things like that, but also, went to school and did a master's in organizational leadership, and focused on 2 things: reflective practices for leaders, and also how inclusion and acceptance of people working in the workforce, how that helps your bottom line. So those are my 2 focuses. And so I've been really, really leaning into that for the last 9 years.
Nice. It's interesting how many successful people want to talk about their mornings, right? Like if you win the morning, you've won your day. If you're, if like the Tim Ferriss 30-30, so like within 30 minutes, eat 30 grams of protein. Yeah. All of those things start early on in the day. How much of your success would you contribute to being the person that gets up and does something early?
What I would say is 100% of my success is contributed to getting up and being intentional, and doing that from the moment that I wake up to throughout the morning. Now I happen just to wake up in the morning, and because I go to bed early at night. Now one thing I won't say is I never subscribe to the notion of like the 5 a.m. club, or there's no person in the history of humankind, and maybe this is an argument that people might, they might call on your show and be like, he's full of, but here's the thing, like, I don't echo that sentiment where it's like, you need to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and be successful. That's the only way you're going to be successful. Well, if you work all night, then you're doing your body a disservice by getting up that early, right? So what I always say to people that I work with, and, in situations that I've had the stage of speaking, talk about morning routines, platforms like this, is I always say, when you get up, be intentional, whether that's at 5 in the morning or 11 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. And so what I would equate my success is that once my eyes open and I get up, I go through, protocols one after the other. And that, I think, has contributed to, what I do in my life to make myself, productive. But I would also say, like, just to reiterate it, is the caveat is, sleep is your best friend.
And it's a superpower.
Absolutely. So if you're going to bed at 11 or 12 at night, and getting up at 5 in the morning, it's pretty counterproductive, right? So what I would do is make sure you're getting your 8 or 9 hours, whatever it is that you need, and then be productive when you get up, whether that's 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, it doesn't matter, whenever it is, maybe it's in the afternoon, just be productive with that. And so once you become intentional, doesn't matter what time you get up, as long as you do that, that's going to contribute to your success. It's not cold showers and red light therapy.
So what I'm hearing, so if we summarize for our listeners, don't lean into a fad just because somebody says it's good. Lean into the intentionality of what you expect from your day. So if you need to be more productive, then learn to segment your day accordingly so that when you hit the ground running, you are indeed running. If you're going to bed late, get the extra sleep. Extra sleep is far more important than, getting up early and doing like a 20-minute run, eating, and then doing 20 minutes of meditation and reading. For anyone out there who sits there and says, like, if I can do that, I can be successful, you're going about it the wrong way, because you need to learn and see why you're starting this. So I really want to dive into your why, and we're going to go past the 9 years ago where you kind of got off the bike and then realized you need to be more intentional. And I want to go back to young Nick, and I want to talk about that for a bit, just to give people a bit of an idea, because were you always this driven, or were you just someone who just coasted? Or, let me hear more about the young Nick.
Yeah, I think that I was always driven. I played hockey for the Belleville Bulls and Ontario Hockey League, and so I played 4 years there in university and things like that. So I always had to make sure that I was, showing up and doing, my life was hockey back then, right? Everything was hockey. So I was always pretty a driven guy, but like I also didn't, make any concessions to be successful. And what I mean by that is, I never missed nights out. I was always, I wasn't exactly always taking care of my body, even though I was, working out and running and getting ready for the season. Looking back, if I knew now, as they say, right? If I knew now what I didn't know then. But I would say that I was always a driven guy. But I also feel like I've went through times in my periods of times in my life where I didn't always like who I was, right? So I would be influenced by, people or things that I thought I needed to accomplish or do or act a certain way, and it wasn't until, recently, in the last few years or not, I really feel like I've really stepped into who I am and getting back to who I was once at like 12, right? It's funny because it's just like we're always so quick to grow up, but like for myself, it's just like, I moved away from home at a young age to play and things like that. And I just felt like, looking back on it, some of the decisions that I made and the things that I thought were important weren't, and realized that, inherently I try to be a good person, and I'm not going to allow kindness to be seen as a weakness, but my default is to be kind to people and to try to help as best that I can, but also recognize that, that I have value and others do too. So for me, getting back to how I was when I was younger, I was a very driven individual, but I don't think my intentions weren't going in the right direction always,
Yeah, and especially you can run in any direction you want.
Exactly.
But if you constantly change the direction, you're never going to get to where you want to go. And that's one thing that we're learning, especially as we grow the studios, we grow our businesses, is how does somebody take their life knowledge, which is what you've done, and then intentionally draw it back into a singular point. So you're very focused now on public speaking. You're focused on coaching and consulting and helping people grow. Even with your entrepreneurial adventures, you're still that leader. And that's what you're trying to do, is bring more leaders into the fray. Right. And I find that a very fascinating thing, that you're going in that direction with such a precision base. That's why your mornings start off that way. The routine, is that born from needing it, or could you go without the routine and go straight into being successful?
Well, I can speak to me, and it was born out of necessity. Yeah. I mean, man, like I was on the verge of losing it, like, losing my family. I was broke. I talk about this in Life of Cadence every once in a while, but it was just like I didn't have any direction. I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't probably the best father at the time. I was very selfish, very me-driven. So the routine helped me kind of get back on track. Right now, not everybody. I mean, there's some people, and there's lots of research out there to suggest sometimes the most successful entrepreneurs and people in the world get up, work, and then go and do their thing, and that's fine. And people do that all the time. Alex Hormozi talks about it. Dan Martell talks about it. For myself, what I like to do is get up and get intentional with my day, get myself centered, get myself right first. Once I get myself right first, then I ask myself the question, what is my 11 o'clock a.m. self going to think of my 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. actions, right? And it's always, if I'm doing things, getting myself, getting a sweat, getting a stretch, drinking water, reflecting a little bit, then I feel like I'm my best self at, 11, 12, 1, whatever, however the day goes, right? So for myself, I think that it was born out of necessity, man, because I was on the verge of losing it all, and I never want to go back to that place again.
You're putting structure into your life for a reason, and it's funny because as I coach creatives, a lot of them want to go everywhere, and I'm like, how about we get you in this direction really precisely, because if you can do that really well, you get known for that, right? So I would say the environment or the structure that you place upon your life can help you to get to where you need on a much quicker basis. You can still do this and get to the point B, and you can have a lot of fun doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. But for the people who are looking to intentionally get to a certain place and to build upon there, you got to have a trajectory, right?
I agree. I think you need to have a compass, right? Where you're like, this is where I need to get to, and this is, and it gives you something to work towards, right? People always say, it's like, are you living intentionally, or are you being reactive, or are you being proactive in your day, right? And so for myself, as I try to be proactive in my day, whereas I will follow a simple script where, you're a journal guy as well. It's just, I literally write everything down, or I have a list of things that I need to do, and I just cross it off my list. It's the same kind of thing that you're doing right now.
I have a bullet journal, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's literally what I do is I sit there and I'm like, oh, I've got to get this done, get this done, get this done. If it's not getting done, it gets pushed forward. So I was like, can I push forward those two?
100%. And I think in doing that sets your life to the direction that you want to go. Now, always have to have the end goal, like, the end game, where you realize, well, it's, 5 years down the road, 10 years, Nick, 15, 20 years, Nick. That may not be you. But if you can be like, okay, here are the major things I need to accomplish today. I'm going to get this done, and then everything else will fall into place. Like, a lot of times when it comes to like working for yourself and entrepreneurship, it's not huge, things that need to get accomplished in the sense that it's like, it's going to take you all day. Sometimes it's just like a few things here and there where you do 3 or 4 things. You pay a vendor, you make a connection, you generate a little bit of revenue or potential revenue in the future. You make that kind of relationship. Like, those are the things that build businesses, right? Yeah. So it's just a matter of doing those things and making sure that sometimes you're not getting lost in the minutia of the everyday, where it's like, I got to get this done. It's like, well, yeah, but are you building your business, or are you just knocking off tasks that you're supposed to do, right? So I think there's a bit of a difference. For me, it's follow my script, on script, off script, and it's that simple. And I think that's what we can do as entrepreneurs, is just make it as simple as possible. Like, what works for me may not work for you, but for me, I just know that all the things that are on my script that are important, then they're on one side of the paper. All the things that are other people's requests, they're on the other, right? And I just knock them off the list as I go.
One of the things that I'm trying to do more in this podcast is kind of give people a roadmap and also let them see that they're not alone. Right. So I don't know if you've seen any of the podcasts that we've done with Stephanie, for example. We talk about like an emotional roller coaster of running a business. And so what's your take on, like, we're 2024 right now, what's your take on the business environment currently, and how does that affect you as an entrepreneur?
So I am familiar with the roadmaps that you've been given. I've seen Stephanie's lots of times. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm sitting here talking to you. I think they're really great. And so I feel like for every individual, it's different. For myself in particular, I feel like we are entering a really interesting time in business when it comes to like the gig economy, where you're able to be not only an entrepreneur, but you can also have it as your side hustle. You can also, be a full-time mom or a full-time dad and do work for other people and not be tethered to the, 25-year commitment that you might be getting in these huge companies, right? Where maybe our fathers and mothers and people in our lives, we're more accustomed to, where it's like, go to school, get out of college or university, or leave out of high school or whatever, and get a job early and stay with the company, and then you get a nice watch at the end, and you sail into retirement, right? So what did I hear one day where it's just like, a paycheck is great, but it comes at the cost of some of your own ambitions, right? So
I love a saying, and this is the one that got me into business, was if you're not building your dream, you're building someone else's.
100%. I just had a call with a guy today, and he was building this amazing, this amazing platform for dads in particular. And he was talking about, bringing in revenue in the door. And he's an entrepreneur. He's a solopreneur, does a great job. He speaks all the time. And he was saying, well, some of his mentors have been telling him that maybe he should work for someone else to get some money in the door. And I said, yeah, you can certainly do that. And that's a viable option. There's honor in that for sure. But you can also just focus your attention on generating, high net worth, like revenue that you do with your speaking. You generate a lot of revenue with that. Focus on that, and then focus on getting people in the door for your dad's program.
Sure.
Why are we building other people's, dreams when you can be doing it yourself? You've been doing it yourself for 10, 15 years. So just continue to focus more of your attention on bringing in revenue in the door, and then, work on the things that really serve you. And he kind of liked that idea in the sense, he's like, yeah, you know what, if I'm working on other things, then it's taking me away from, speaking, it's taking me away from his coaching and all those things, right? So where I see the economy going, or the business economy going, is I feel there's a lot of value in the gig economy. I feel there's a lot of value in people, doing side hustles and turning them into their main gig once they realize, they can do things,
Can you define the gig economy for people who've this is a fairly new term that's coming out in the last year.
Yeah.
Explain it the best you can for the listeners listening going, well, I have a job, I am an entrepreneur, what's this gig economy? Is that something I'm already doing?
Yeah, well, in some cases it might be something you're already doing. A lot of times, how I see it, and different interpretation for others, but the gig economy is you can have a job if you want, and have a little side hustle where it's that I might be really, really good at doing, design work for people. And so you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, maybe not. And so you might have other responsibilities, kids, house, wife, husband, whatever it is, person. And so you just are doing something on the side, but also you're going from, you have 6 or 7 clients. So maybe you can do design work for your studio. Maybe you do design work for one of my companies. Maybe you can do design work. So you have 3 or 4 these little gigs, and they have a start time and they have a finish time, right? And you just go in there and you do the work for 2 or 3 months. Maybe it's a 2 or 3 month contract, but there's a start, there's a finish, and you're getting paid on the job that you do.
Yeah, it's like a project based.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now a lot of times people will do they'll have their own work, and then they'll do that. But a lot of times, I was talking to one of my associates today, and she has 7 different clients that she does social media for, right? And that's it. They're all just little gigs that she does, and she works from home, and she's doing gigs for that company, gigs for this one, and it's just does social media. They have contracts for 3, 4, 2 months, 3 weeks, so it doesn't matter what it is. And they're just doing all these little gigs, if you will.
Yeah, I like that, because the one thing that a lot of people get really lost in the weeds with, especially when they're building a business, is there's 2 kind of business people. There's the business people that will succeed with support, and then the ones that will succeed without support, right? And so the ones that succeed without support are the kind of the people burn all their boats, sail out there and just go for it, right? It's I'm in that category. I'll go all in to make it work, right? And it's only when I've got my back against the wall will I actually get what needs to be done. But there are some people out there who can go out there and work away and have extra kind of gigs and income streams to help them build to where they're going. And I always envy those people, because I'm man, how do you get the motivation? Especially when you have something to go, how do I continue to be motivated towards something, even though I can quite happily be here, right? Because humans are naturally seeking comfort, right? So how do you break out of comfort with comfort to make something successful? That's always been a fascination of mine.
Well, I think it's a good question, because I feel it depends on what you want, right?
Yeah.
How fast do you want to scale, right? If you're just okay with working on it and doing a little here, and then you work a full-time job, then chances are you're not gonna scale. But if you burn the boats, as they say, right, and that's how you take the island because you have no other option, then you're gonna do things a lot quicker. However, I think there's value in both. I feel if you're the burn the boats option, where it's well, I have nothing, I have no parachute here, is going to allow you, yes, to work harder, but it's also going to put a lot more stress on you to make sure that you're making ends meet, as they call it. If you're doing something that's new, what I would encourage people to do is just well, don't leave your job right now, right away. Look and see, dabble in a little bit, because once you start taking away the the stress of having to make it all work, to pay your staff, to make all your bills, on time. Once you take that away and you have a foundation based on a job that you're doing, then all of a sudden you have a lot more creative licensing in your own business to do your thing, and you're not worried about everything else. Okay, that's going to take care of because I have this parachute, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think there's value in both. I've been in both situations where it's like, breaking bricks all day and then working in my parents' basement all night trying to get, schools to buy into whatever it is that I was doing. Like, I've seen all that. I've also, started businesses while I'm working full time in my job. So I think that there's benefits to both. But I would encourage people, especially in today's economy, you got a good job that you enjoy doing. If you hate it, then, I would encourage you to do a job that you may not absolutely love. Maybe it's, maybe you're driving for Uber or something that you just kind of doing to kind of pay the bills and bring in some money while you're working on your business. That's what I think in business now. There's no like rules in the sense that we have to do it one way, right? Like that's what's so great about the world and that we live in is people are so creative in the way they think. And people are so creative in the way that they do business that, you can drive for one of these companies or Airbnb a room out in your basement, whatever it is, to generate some revenue while you're working on something. Or you can have a business and generate a side hustle, or you can do like what you did and just be like, I'm all in and generate revenue that way. So there's so many different ways to be a business. I think the only thing that's stopping people from being an entrepreneur is their own mindset. Yeah. They have that can't do attitude. And as soon as you turn that mindset into, I can get this going, then, you're going to be successful.
I 100% agree, because it's like when you start building your business and you build the awareness of where you want to go, you start looking at all of the ecosystems around it differently, right? So when we built this studio, for example, we looked at the podcast studio going, we really want to do this because we want to share these stories, we want to educate. Those were some of our core values, right? But then when we got into it, like, well, how do we make this work, right? And so you start building out different ideas for things and trying them out and kind of toying with it, right? So
exactly.
And that's exactly it. And like, as my agency grows, like one of the things that we do is we learn from a lot of businesses. And so we talk to a lot of businesses, because if I turn around to you and said, oh, what are some of the problems that you're dealing with? Now I can help you, because I've got like 17, 18 people I've talked to this week who have had similar business problems, but have solved them in different manners.
Absolutely. And I feel like, the only restraints that we have are the ones that we put on ourselves, right? Like, so if you're I'm a big believer in I was talking to an associate the other day and I said to him, I said, you want your business to work? He said, yeah. And I said, have a conversation every day about it.
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? I said, just talk to colleagues, talk to myself, talk to associates. But if you want your business to work, have conversations. If you mean to tell me that if you call 5 people every single day for 365 days a year, minus, a few here and there for holidays and weekends and things like that. But if you call 5 people a day, you mean you're not going to generate any revenue? It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you want to build your business, you don't have to have this grandiose, like, okay, well, we're going to have this amazing ad, this ad campaign. We have to do that. And maybe in some cases that's good. But if you are just starting with just you and your thoughts and your computer, send a message, send 5 DMs a day in Instagram or LinkedIn or something, just saying like, this is what I do. Thanks for following along. Would you be interested in following just the stories, or would you like to learn how I can help serve your community?
Let me switch that on you a little bit, just because there's a slight shift in how socials is done now, and it works out beautifully. Always think about it with, we call it the WIFM, so what's in it for me, from your viewer's perspective. So when you're going out there, and we test this all the time, and it works really well. So if you're going out there to place a comment, you can do 100, 1,000 comments a day and not get anything, because if you're just going on, great, good job, whatever, doesn't mean anything.
Right.
The trick, scroll through those comments and look for the question that hasn't been answered, or a question that has been answered poorly, and then answer it to the best of your ability, but only come at it from a complete, serving them.
Absolutely.
Right. So rather than trying to perform, just serve. Go out there and say, this is what I found works. Give it a shot. And then you'll find that suddenly you got a new follower, you got a new like, or they'll go back through your content and be like, man, this is so true. And you are you, right? And if you get over that as quick as possible and then start just producing content based on who you are, you'll find you'll get much more success. And like long tail success is what we deal with here, right? We're not interested in short-term success. Short-term success is, I need to get my business rolling now. You run an ad, or you go out there and you start shaking hands. You get really aggressive in your marketing. that allows you to bring in the business to be able to convert that into sales. Long tail is a lot harder game to play, and a lot of people don't like to do it, but it's the one that serves you in the long run, which is what you build on your daily now, you're going to do for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
Which terrifies people because they're like, I don't want to do that. Well, find something you really like doing. I really like talking to people about how they've become successful and how they've grown what they're doing or where the success lies. That for me is exciting, and I can do that every month. I can do day in, day out.
Yeah, no,
So find something like that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I feel like it was interesting because I say to people all the time, like, give your content out for free. They're like, what? I'm like, well, just give it out for free. 100%. I'm like, I always give my content out for free. I only charge for the execution, right? So give the content out for free, because you'd be like, here, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And then it's yours. But if you want my, my expertise on something, and if you want my time, weekly or monthly, whatever it is, then yeah, there's a charge for the execution. But I give all my stuff away. If you go through all my socials, there is nothing that I don't work with when it comes to corporations or coaching or anything like that I haven't already said on social media. Yeah. Right. Just, it's out there. I give that away. And that's what I would encourage a lot of entrepreneurs out there, is just like, we're so worried about like, oh, I don't want it, what about the licensing on it? It's mine. I'm just like, no, give it away. Give it away and see what happens. Because if you are of service, then you are of value. Yeah. It's that simple. If you are of service, you are of value.
To summarize that, give freely and become an absolute genuine person online. Like, just go out there with 100% looking to serve others, and we'll call it emotional karma or karmic debt that you put into the world eventually will come back. And it's like, and it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be a month from now. Right. So here's some weirdly interesting stats about this podcast studio that we've just found. We've done like a testing for the last 6 months, and a lot of us have gone and done like daily videos, and it has not been intentional by any means. We've not gone out there and said, oh, today we're going to talk about this. It's kind of off the cuff, learning and growing and doing all that fun stuff. On average, when people come in here and do this, they see a natural increase of 600% across the board.
Great numbers.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
So, and we haven't really done anything to earn that. We've just gone out there and just given freely. We just tried to give. Like, I just look at it and go, if I was the young person watching this, can I get one piece of information from this that I can then take and then action on? And that's all I care about. Like, as someone who grew up in this area where there wasn't a lot of sharing of information, like on how to do the photography or how to charge for it or who to meet, all of those things I had to learn by myself. Yeah. And so it's understanding that that's what my core is in this, is like, how do we bring people to the table and give them value? And that's what we're doing. We don't actually care about the result. We don't care how many people view it, like it, share it. None of that matters, because all I want is one person to sit there and watch it and go, man, I woke up and I did the 20-20-20. That's it.
Well, I'm 100% sitting here talking to you because of the model that you just described.
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. Like, I saw Stephanie on here, and I saw Paul on here, and I've seen other people on here, and I stop and scroll because a couple things. One, it's produced well, but two, the content was interesting. Yeah. Right. And so what do? I looked at your AMP, and Ash, I know him. Yeah. Sent a message. So I believe that. I think that if you give freely, right, if you give with the intent to serve, then, just through the law of reciprocity, it's all going to come back. It may not be tomorrow, may not be the next day, but just continue to show up. And that's not being, well, it's going to come back. Don't let that be your driving force. Let the driving force literally be as simple as, I just want to be of value. Yeah. I don't, and it's so much easier to hate or to deal with haters when you're just like, be like, oh, I hate your content. That's okay. I just want to be of value. If I can be of service in any way, send me a DM, and they hate that, right? But I'm just going to love on you, man. And that's it. That's how I roll.
The first podcast we put out, it was so funny. So Brady and I sat in the back there, and it's like, if you go back, you can find it in the YouTube. I don't think it's on Amplified. And we get out there and we put together this content and we pushed it out there, and we're talking about how we wanted to build this studio to help people grow. And the first comment was, not everybody needs a podcast. And I'm just like, you're right, not everybody needs a podcast, but please don't go into podcasting, because the less crowded it is, the easier it is for the people doing it.
Exactly.
And that's the number one thing I always look at now when people critique. The first thing I do is look at what they've done, right? Like, if someone like high up in the food chain tells me like, stop doing that, do this, well, then they probably have a reason, because they've made it that far. But more often than not, you never get criticized from the people who are above you. You get criticized from the people who are below you. And often that is the people that would never do what you're doing to get to where you want to go. They want to do it in a completely weird manner, and that's fine too. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, and I think, yeah, even further to that, I think there's two things that people need when it comes to feedback. Number one, the person receiving the feedback has to feel safe in your presence. And so often, right, everybody's like, well, let me give you some feedback. Let me give you some feedback. And like, you have no relationship with that person when you're doing that. So number one is the person receiving the feedback has to feel safe with you. And number two speaks to exactly what you're talking about. That person that's receiving the feedback needs to view you as someone worthy to give the feedback.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're listening, and it's always people that are not doing the thing that are the most that are the keyboard cowboys as they call it, right? It's always the person that's not doing it that has the most to say.
Yeah.
And I just know through my life that the mentors that I've had in my life, the coaches that I've had in my life, and yes, I invest in coaching, absolutely. And the people that I have in my life that are giving me insights are ones that have been there and the ones that I feel safe with. And so I'm looking at them being like, I feel safe in their presence. And I value what they've done in their life. So I'm going to listen to that feedback. If you have those two things, then, and they just want to serve. They just want to help. Hey, take it or leave it. Here's what I think that you should do, or here's what I would consider, and I always say that to my friends. I'm like, do you want me to give you feedback? Are you asking for feedback? Or are you asking for me to be your friend? Because there's a difference. Like if you want me to give you insights on your business on business that I know, then that's a lot different from me waving the pom-poms being like, hey man, you're doing great, keep it going. Yeah. But if they're like, no, I want your feedback, then that's a little different vibe that I.
Well, you're also inviting it too. If you're asking for feedback, you think that you can improve.
Yeah.
And we run into this all the time, especially in the video production world, is we'll ask for feedback from the client. We've changed that recently. We've been pushing out the content and saying, this is what we've done, but not asking for feedback. And we've found that notes are coming back less. Yeah. Because when you ask someone for feedback, they naturally feel inclined to be like, oh, he wants something from me, so I should give him something, right? And so then they're like, oh, this could be a little bit faster, or make it pop, right? Like that's a number one thing. Like you'll hear clients say like, oh, just make it pop. So, well, what does that mean? There's no pop button in Premiere. So how do you make that work? So that's kind of how I perceive it. Is like when you start asking for the, mean it. Right. So if I came to you and said, hey, Nick, like I want to get into public speaking. Right. And I'm slowly getting pulled that way, which is funny because 2 years ago, I was terrified of even like sitting down doing this stuff here. So for me, like going and growing as a public speaker, I'm starting to notice things I haven't before. So like intonations, how people work. So if someone's watching this right now and we're talking like ground zero, right? And they're just like, I feel like I've got something to give inside me and I don't know how to do it. And I've heard public speaking is the way to go. What would be your number one starting tip for people who are starting that route?
Ooh.
Yeah. We're getting to that part of the show.
Yeah. I would say show up as your authentic self. That's what I would say. And be exactly who you are and allow that to come out in exactly how you live. So if I'm one way on stage and I'm somebody completely different, then the audience is always going off stage. The audience is always going to know. So anybody that ever asks for my advice on public speaking, there's two things I would say. One, show up authentically as yourself and be unapologetic by it. This is you show up as you. And number two, do the reps. That's it. You don't become a public speaker by speaking in front of the mirror. You become a public speaker, you become a keynote speaker, workshop presenter, whatever it is, pick your term. You become that by doing. And I think it's a metaphor for life, right? You become a good entrepreneur by being an entrepreneur, by starting off as a bad one. And I always look at things in life as through the lens of a learner, right? So I've been speaking for 12 years now, since I think I started in 2012, around there. And I am only looking at it through the guise of how can I be better? How can I serve more, right? But keeping in mind that I need to continue to do reps and I need to continue to authentically show up as myself. And I always say to people, like, show up as yourself authentically, but unapologetically, right? A lot of people are like in social media or in speaking, they don't get asked to speak very often. It's because they're not really saying anything. They're talking, sure, they're filling the hour, but like have a stance on something. Yeah. And let that come out in how you live. And so if you have certain systems that you put in your life, then live them every day. So that when you're posting about social media and they ask you to come in and talk about different things, then they're going to be like, well, who do I call when I need this?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's Ash. That's who we call. Who do I call when I need that? Oh, that's Nick. That's who you call. So allow your on-stage persona to live every day in your life, but show up authentically as yourself and continue to do the reps. That's the secret sauce, is like just continue to do it, right?
It's a little bit controversial, but I believe authenticity is a little bit of a catch-all. And I want to add on something to that. And what we're talking about and what you're talking about is called personal branding, right? So your personal brand is you as kind of productized version of you, right? That's what a personal brand is, right? And I will absolutely, in this day and age, advocate for personal brands over a business brand. Like if you're going to start a business today, start a personal brand and start a business brand, but really focus in on that personal brand, because your opinions, your authenticity, as you talk about, are key. Now, here's the catch. Authenticity needs to be authentic to the personal brand. So if you're naturally like super energetic and excited and that's you, if you show up and you're having like a really rough day and you show up low energy, it's going to affect you and it's going to affect your personal brand on a way that you can't see. So you have to show up consistently and just do those reps, like you say, but be consistent. So when we say authenticity, we're actually asking for a consistency within you. So if you don't know the consistent version of you, go back and find it.
But I think that changes too, right? Like
Sure.
the authentic, consistent version of myself as a father is different from the authentic, consistent version of myself as an entrepreneur, as a friend, as a husband, right? So I think that what's the name? Todd Herman wrote a great book called The Alter Ego Effect. And in it, he talks about, showing up as different people. And so I know that the word authenticity and being authentic there's a lot of nuance to it.
Buzzword.
Yeah,
right
it is
now.
a buzzword right now, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you use it under the terms of like, no, I'm going to show up as my authentic self as a father, and I'm going to be consistent with that. So every single day when I walk through the thresholds and I'm like, hey, I'm home, I am dad mode. The hoodie goes on, the comfortable pants, and I'm on the floor with the kids playing. I'm actually on the floor now, they're a little older, but like, you know what I mean? I'm doing homework. I'm doing homework. I'm helping where I can in different areas. When I'm out and I'm in business and I'm walking through the thresholds of the office or I'm on stage, then I'm authentically that person, right? Yeah. And so I think that there's some nuance to that.
Yeah, and so that's the authenticity we talk about, right? So it's like making sure that it's consistent in that respect.
100%.
Yeah. When you talked about, I kind of want to loop it back into some long-term and consistency, just to wrap up. And one of the things that I really appreciate about you is, as you're growing, you're very much aware of the long tail. So do you write these down? Do you build out these goals? Like, because if you don't have a goalpost, you're never going to hit your goal, right? So do you write down these goals? Are you making them visible to you? How do you work with that end goal?
Yeah, so every day I write my goals down. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's overly complicated, but like I said, about anything in business or in life, if you're talking about it, if you're communicating about it, it's going to help, right? So if you're in a relationship with someone, a lot of times people will say, well, it didn't work out. And if you dig it all out, you go back and you look at why didn't it work? Well, you stop communicating, right? So the same goes for your goals, man. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. I write out my goals every single day to keep them front of mind, right? I review them every night before I go to bed. And so I just try to keep them simple. And I look at what my goal is. Okay, so if I have a goal of, say, I want to get into optimal health, usually it's something that's a little bit more specific, but I can look at that metric every quarter, every day, every month. What am I doing? So is my aspirations in life aligned with my everyday application? So are my goals aligned with my aspirations, my goals? Are they aligned with my application every day? So if I say I want to start a business and I have done nothing any day for the first quarter, as we're rounding the first quarter as this is being filmed, then I'm not on my way to start a business, right? So if I say I want to start a business, but I dedicate my life every single day to doing one thing to get that business up and running, then I'm on my way, right? And so then I look at it every quarter, at the end of the quarter, what did I do? And I just write down where it's at every goal. So if it's get in optimal health, it's just like I started a new vitamin regime. I worked out, 89% of the days of the month on average, and I'm cutting out Sugars the best that I can, no alcohol. So I can look at that and I'll be like, okay, that's what I did for quarter one. So for quarter two, where am I going to be after quarter 2, 3, 4? And at the end of it, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you just break them into bite size, kind of thing. So yeah, for me to answer that question, absolutely. I write them down every day. I think it's important to keep them at front of mind. You have to communicate with yourself what your goals are, where your goalposts are. Because like you said, like if you don't know where the goalposts are, then you're just going to be, taking shots in the wind and it's not going to go anywhere.
I find for me, I just put 3 main goals up and I just post them somewhere where they're visible.
Yep.
And then I always kind of refer back to am I working on something that's moving me towards that, or am I just finding work to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. You just ask that questioning. Like, what's going to make today productive? What needs my attention? What's going well? Those are the 3 questions I ask myself every day.
Now, if our listeners want to follow you, want to get to know more about this, about the life of Cadence, where can they find you? Where do you live most online?
Yeah, most online, Instagram, Nick Foley, Nick_Foley1 on Instagram. NickFoley.ca is the easiest way to get a hold of me. Just send me a message. If you liked anything you heard, send me a message. If you don't like anything you heard, send you a message. And I'm just kidding. Send me a message. I'm here for it. But NickFoley.ca is the best way to get a hold of me. And Nick_Foley1, usually on Instagram. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, Nick Foley on LinkedIn. Send me a message. I'm happy to communicate. And if I can be of value, that's it. That's what I want to be, a value and of service every day that I wake up in the morning. If I can be of value for that person, then I'm happy to give them anything that they need to help.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us, and I really appreciate it. And best of luck.
Oh, this is fun. We'll do it again. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man. And cut.
Awesome job, man. You're like a interview aficionado. Is that a word? Yeah. That's great.
I just follow I usually have like 2 themes I start up with.
Yeah.
And I do the same with like videos and stuff like that, where I sit there and I'm like, okay, so entrepreneurial life, okay.